Hello. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and it's been a week. I was on vacay. It was my sister's birthday. Well, it wasn't quite her birthday. It was a little past her birthday, but we went to Vegas to celebrate it, and they were like, "What was you doing in Vegas, Christina?" I went to go see some shows, like some, friendly shows. I went to see Ka. It was my second time seeing Ka with Cirque du Soleil. My mom and two of my other sisters had never been there, so they got to see that for the first time. And then we did go see the Jabberwockies the next night. And they were really cool. The Jabberwockies, first saw them on America's Best Dance Crew. And so we got to see their performance. Both were at the same hotel, the MGM Grand. And there was one part of the show where they actually like brought on people to come sing. They were doing like an American Idol kind of thing. And it was rigged. So their person got on stage at the end and won and did all these tricks and stuff. But when they were first doing it, like trying to call people up, like no one was moving, and my sister was looking at me like, "You should go do it." And I'm like, "Is this real? Are they really?" I'm obviously as part of the show. I wasn't for sure like if they wanted real audience participation. And then I'm like, I don't know if I'll know the songs because we grew up not really listening to secular music and stuff, so I don't know a ton of music, but and I like to sing well. I can sing very well, so I definitely don't like to get on stage and screw up. So I eventually I was like, I'll do it. And so I was the first person, and so people seemed surprised when I could actually like sing. So it was Backstreet Boys Everybody, which I don't know all the words to that song either. But I guess I knew enough, and they did actually have like the lyrics on screen. So so it was I got compliments and stuff after I left, but it was cool. I couldn't really hear my sisters like flipping out, like freaking out. But apparently they were screaming, say, because that's what my nieces and my nephew calls me. And which they don't call me that. My older sister Katrina, she does not call me that. And she was just like still screaming Cece. I'm like, these people won't even know my name. Like that Cece was amazing. Anyway, we had a fun time. We had a fun time. So I decided to take the week off and had a week off. I did post a few articles, and I don't really know if I post any videos really. At least nothing new. I don't even think I've posted anything new on TikTok. I just kind of took the week. But man, there was a lot of news to talk about, and things that I did cover and write a little bit about and post here and there. But I wanted to talk about it. So I wanted to go through a couple things today, and that happened last week. So if you've already heard commentary, already know about it, just please excuse me a little bit. I want to get my thoughts out, and so I'm just going to try to cover the stories. Not spend super long time on it, but I want to knock out some stuff that happened last week, and we'll resume the news. There's some newsy stuff that's happened, like even since that time that I was on vacation. I'm like, I'll cover that tomorrow, but I want to play catch up with a couple different things. So bear with me today. Entertain me. Hopefully I'll entertain you. So before we jump into it, I do want to encourage you guys to go to blackteens.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos that we have on the site. Please check out my book, Of Course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That book is available for pre-order. It's not available to actually have physically in your hand yet, but you can pre-order right now the book on I guess it would be Nook because it's the Barnes and Nobles, and also on Kindle right now. You will be able to pre-order and get a paperback and also a hardback cover. So if you're interested, you can sign up on the website and get more updates. Make sure you guys are signing up for the email list. I will be at Motor City Comic Con in May. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but it'll be in May. So if you're in the Metro Detroit area, if that's like something you like to do, go to Comic Cons and stuff. I will be there. We'll have a table. I will be there with my books. Lots of my books. I do have 15 published books. Let me find the picture with me in my books. You guys don't know. I'm thanking everyone who's new who pops on. I've had people come on from my shorts from YouTube, so I'm steadily really growing followers every day. But I have 15 published books. One of them is nonfiction, the rest are fiction. So if you're interested, if you go to blacktnews.com, hit the merchandise page. There's a banner at the top. Will take you to my book website. But you can just search my name on Amazon, and you'll find all my stuff. It's available on most of my stuff is available for Kindle Unlimited, and it's on Kindle. And you can get a paperback version. So I write all kinds of stuff for young adult, for children. I guess middle grade children's chapter books. I do have picture books that my youngest sister is working on the illustration for one children's book that I did. It was inspired really by my nephew and something that he would say when he was little. But it's about a little dinosaur. So she's been working on it. I would like to have it by May by the Motor City Comic Con. Not sure. She's a very busy woman herself with her own creative dreams, but I'm trying to go back to the cover. She did my illustration for this cover with the hand of God reaching out to the baby. So she's very, very talented. So I'll actually have picture books and at some point in time in the future, but I have written a lot of stuff even that I don't have out yet. So I'm excited if anyone wants to, pop up on me at Motor City Con or other places that I may visit in the future. Also, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. Cost to stream, cost to run my website, do all that stuff. So if you would like to help in that regard, it does really go a long way to cover some of that overhead costs. So thank you to everyone who has donated and anyone who's considering it, whether your gift is small. People have given $10. I've had people give upward more than $100. Like, thank you so much. Really, really do appreciate it. At this point in time, you guys know that I'm not monetized. Hopefully very soon we'll reach that threshold, but I guess I'll let you know whether it happens or not. But right now, and it has been just like me and you guys think of it. So I'd really like to grow Black Tea and expand it. And it is a stretch, doing everything just myself on top of everything that I have to do. So I like this to be a self-sustaining, growing thing that can expand. So if you can help in that regard, God bless you. But I do thank you guys for watching, for streaming, for watching live, for watching on the playback, for when I reclip stuff, for watching those things. When anything really does help to help grow the channel and help get more eyes when you tag people, tell people to watch Black Tea. I saw that Brett Cooper for the Daily Wire, she featured one of my videos and then she didn't tag me in it. So I guess I probably would have never known, but I had someone in my comments who had let me know that Brett Cooper had featured it. And so they're like, oh, congratulations. So I went on her page and I found it. And so there are people in the comments saying Black Tea, she's great. Oh, I just followed her. She's amazing. And that she's underrated and letting other people know who I was. So I do very much appreciate you guys. I would have appreciated it more if they did tag me. I do understand that sometimes when they feature stuff, you don't know how much smoke a person might get, and you don't want to make someone unnecessarily famous and bring more hate than they're ready to receive. So I do understand that. I know there's content creators that don't tag people for that reason. I think the content of the video implies that I'm ready for that. I was ready for that smoke, but at least I did have my logo in the corner, the Black Tea logo. So if people recognize that, I guess they would know what that is. I guess I'll pop it on my screen. So yeah, my little teacup. I did my logo design, by the way, too. It's over on this side. Uh, it's mirrored, so I pointed the wrong way. All right, guys. I do not have a meme for you guys today. I'm just gonna jump right into the news. I'm gonna try to spend not more than like 10 minutes on each thing. We will see. My sister laughed when I said that. I'm like, well, I didn't say I would only go an hour. I just said I'm just trying to spend 10 minutes on it, like each thing. So very quickly, which I'm not going to spend 10 minutes on this. I just want to note that Lori Lightfoot did lose her election for mayor. And I think it was the first time in like 40 years that a Democrat has, not a Democrat, I'm sorry, that they're just, the mayor has lost an election. And I'm glad that the people had enough sense to get rid of her. Of course, she's blaming it on racism and sexism. She was asked if she's treated unfairly. She said, I'm a Black woman in America. Of course, I'm like treated unfairly. When the truth is that she's just very, very bad at her job. She was a hypocrite. You had, there was lots of COVID hypocrites, but she's one of them. She was one of those people who were like, stay inside. You can't do this, can't do that. And then she got her hair cut. And then she just justified it like, I'm an important person. I needed a haircut, so I got a haircut. I'm like, I'll just make everyone else feel like peons while they're trapped in their house. Like, you have to live by the standard that you're setting for people. Like, people can't understand that you're an authority figure and you have to go places and travel but you could, to go out and have your haircut. You could have did it yourself, like other people are doing it yourself. That is not like a high thing that you necessarily needed to do, to betray the public trust like that. And she's very adamant about the vaccines. They made life like really miserable. I had a relative who was living out in Chicago, and it was the vaccine passport stuff. It was not fun living in Chicago, not being able to do anything unless you were vaccinated. So that's just it. On top of it being all an authoritative city, you have all this crime too that's not under control. And she's talking about racism, like trying to blame racism or people treating her unfairly. She herself has treated people unfairly. Do you remember when she said that she was gonna like prioritize like Black interviewers or something over like white people, or white people couldn't interview her or something for like a particular point of time? I'm like, that's pretty racist. You should just let people do their job, and you just do your job, and you don't have to focus on being gay, you don't have to focus on being Black. Just do your job and do a good job, and people will reward you. And even if you don't do a good job, people will apparently reward you, because this is the first time in like 40 years that someone has lost a re-election campaign. So that lets you know that an incumbent is more likely, and that's just like an obvious thing, that people are too easily to re-elect these people in these positions, whether they do a good job or a bad job. And that makes people very comfortable that they can do whatever the heck they want, because they don't think that the people are going to hold them accountable. And unfortunately, that is something that usually holds true. So thankfully, the Lori Lightfoot was, kicked out of, or she's out of office. She lost her re-election bid, but that doesn't mean that the next person isn't going to be like awful or terrible or whatever. We'll see, but at the very least, do not just let people be reelected time and time again when they're so awful at their job, And as to her saying she was treated unfairly as a Black woman, that's one reason why when people are so excited about a woman's accomplishments or man's, if a Black person, woman's accomplishment, like, you should be happy because X, Y, Z. I'm like, no, I will be happy if the person is going to implement good ideas, and that they're going to do a good job, that I'm confident that they're going to do a good job. And if I'm confident in that stuff, then I will be happy that it's also a woman or Black or whatever. I don't like those things are not like it's not even secondary. It's like way behind the things that you should be concerned about or care about. But if someone's going to do something competently and do something well, then you can be proud of, like, a woman or a person of color or whatever. But you just don't want someone in who you think is going to be an idiot, or someone who's going to do a terrible job. Like, I just can't be happy because you have a JJ, or I can't just be happy because you got brown skin. Like, I want you to do a good job that's going to make me proud as a woman or proud as a Black person. But I can't just support you because you have those things in front of your name. I'll use an example, and I was just thinking about this earlier. So this is like a non-political example of like people just expect you to be happy because a woman or something is gonna win, or you support them just because. I was really into the show The Masked Singer, and my mom still watches it, but and sometimes when we're over the house we might watch a little bit, but I was like looking for clues, all like I was really into it. So first season, second season, third season is after the third season I kind of dropped out. Jesse McCarthy follows me on TikTok, by the way. I'm not Jesse. I wish you did. One of the hosts, the judges, follows me. Anyway, I was so upset that I'm thinking about him because he lost, and he was the turtle, and he should have won. And they were so like, oh, we got to have the first one. Wouldn't it be cool if the first woman won, and the first woman won, and the first one? I'm like, we're only 3 seasons in. Why does it matter if the woman wins or the man wins? So Jesse was number 2, and I thought he should have won. And Candy, I don't even know her last name. I know her more from a meme. She's from like Escape or some group or something like that. But she ended up winning, and her performances, she could belt stuff out, but she was not always with it. I didn't think she deserved to win. And there was something that was repeated, and I didn't get it. I didn't get, but then the next season, LeAnn Rimes won, and she was like a worthy person to win. Like she was, some of her performance I saw were really great. So I'm like, what was the point of being also excited for this person to be the first woman who won when you could have been more excited or felt like it was genuinely a thing that LeAnn Rimes should have won, and then been happy that the first woman won. And then it's been 8 seasons now, and like 5 of the people who've won have been women. So more people who are women have won the competition. So I just wanted to get that off my chest because Jenny McCarthy follows me. That's what it is. So like you don't have to be just excited because someone is a woman or Black or whatever. Like just be happy that the best person won, or root for the best person. And if they happen to be something else that can make you feel internally whatever, I don't really have a problem with that. But like we got to go by merits first. Like people so excited, like Kamala Harris, like, aren't you happy? I'm like, no, because I think she's gonna do a crap job. And was I wrong? Was I wrong? And it's funny because there's so many people who are like, she was getting trash talked by everybody prior to her like actually being the VP, and then when she was the VP, they're like, oh, pearls and Chucks, like so excited. I'm like, weren't y'all mad for her locking up people like 2 seconds ago, and now you're happy because she actually got the job? Now you're happy. Like you didn't like her like 2 seconds ago. You didn't like her 2 seconds ago. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. I'm glad Lori is out. People Chicago, you gotta pick them better. You just gotta pick better people in general. There's a lot that you put up with. In some regards, to get what you would vote for. So hopefully, you just make better decisions in general. But she's someone who deserved to get ousted. So good news. So let's talk about Hershey. So I already wrote an article about this, but trans activists posted this video last week on Twitter, and it exploded for sure. And it was trending for days, and it led to something with Daily Wire that we'll talk about too. But let's just at first talk about this video.
My name is Faye Johnstone. I'm the executive director of Wisdom to Action. We can create a world where everyone is able to live in public space as their honest and authentic selves. See the woman changing how we see the future at Hershey's Canada.
So a couple like things wrong with that, right? So Faye is a man. And so to have something that's supposed to be for women, representing women, and to have a man in that place is not appropriate. Trans women are not women. To pretend like they are, they're not a subcategory of women. They're just men who have done things to their body, who are wearing makeup or long hair, whatever. Which you can be a cross dresser and not, you don't have to identify as a woman, but you can't be a woman. You'll never be a woman. There's nothing that you can do to change that reality. And to pretend otherwise they're like, well, we're not trying to erase women, we're not trying to replace. I'm like, well, it kind of seems like you're trying to make that implication. Like, I don't think you're like literally trying to like, what would you do if like women were gone? Like everyone would die. Extinct population. So you can't really replace, bully into submission, sure. But it does imply that we are replaceable to some degree. If a trans woman, if you can turn a man into a woman, how do you not think that women are interchangeable? We're irreplaceable, as that Beyonce song goes. So you can't just pretend like you can somehow fix yourself into this position. No, you can't. You have to be born into it. You have to be born into this unique club. Some of us, most of us pay not a price every month. It's more painful for some than others. But yeah, you can't just identify your way into it. So Hershey's doing this is really interesting. But a lot of folks are. There's quite a few really woke companies that are trying to go that route. But the interesting thing about Faye Johnstone here, he said that he wants to create a space where you can be your authentic self. I'm like, he's not his authentic self. If crossdresser is his authentic self, then that's what he is. But he's not authentically a woman. That's not his authentic self. But people are like, I just want to be myself. That's not who you are. You can't be a woman. We can't give you something that's impossible. You can't achieve that. If you want to grow out your hair long, wear whatever you want to wear, it is what it is. And even if you want to, do stuff to your body, have surgery, whatever, I guess it is what it is. But he's one of those people that are like, trans women are women. No, they're not. And he said things about TERFs in the past, which I've been called a TERF. I'm not really a feminist, so I wouldn't say I'm a TERF, but trans exclusionary radical feminist. That's what it stands for. So he wants them to be silenced. He's like, trans women are women. And he was talking about a particular subject going on in Canada, but the end of the tweet was, I actually do want a political environment in which TERFs are so vilified they don't dare speak their views publicly, let alone act on them. Shut them down. So I think there's people who have dysphoria, and they and they're just trying to live their lives in a way that makes sense to them. And I have sympathy for people in that situation. But there are some people who want to grind you into dust for not going along with their perception. They're upset that you don't perceive them a certain way. I just posted a video on TikTok. We'll see if I still have an account after this. By the time I get done, because it was a video. I did nothing wrong, but I'm sure people would not appreciate it. I will post it on YouTube when I get done. But someone got upset with me and said I was transphobic. I said nothing I said in this particular video was transphobic, and someone said, well, you misgendered them. That is transphobic. And we're talking about, it was Jeffrey Marsh. There's tons of videos about Jeffrey Marsh right now, but Jeffrey Marsh identifies as non-binary. So first of all, I'm not calling you a they them unless your name is Legion, because you got a bunch of demons inside you. I'm not calling you a they them. There's one person in there, right? I'm not calling you a they them. not because you feel like it. There are instances where it can be like grammatic. I'm not saying there's never a grammar situation where you might do that, but no, you're a person, and you want me to acknowledge you as a they them because you don't feel that you fit into a binary. You are a man or you are a woman. Like, so I'm not playing the game. If you're a man, you're a man. I'm gonna use he, they, he, him, pronouns, not the they them. When I talk about you. So I said Jeff, I said his name, I said he, him, or whatever. And so they call me transphobic. And I said, calling me transphobic implies that I'm afraid. And I wouldn't be speaking out the way that I'm speaking out if I were afraid. All the people too afraid to speak out, they're the actual transphobes because they're terrified of what you may do to them, so they comply. Now, some people are doing it because they think they're nice, they're being nice or whatever. But Dylan Mulvaney, who said, in a smiley little face, said, one day we won't tolerate transphobia on the internet, and I'm scared what might happen to you. I'd hate for something to happen to you. So it's like, shut up, or we will end you. And this dude here, wants people to be so vilified that they can't share their views publicly, just shut them down. So, and that patriarchy, just trying to shut the woman down. So, no, I'm not a trans. If transphobe meant that, because if misgendering someone, I'm not having a conversation with Jeffrey. I'm talking about Jeffrey. So they're upset because of my perception of Jeffrey isn't non-binary, and that my speech is not controlled to address him as if he's non-binary and respecting his pronouns. And so not only do I have to control my speech when I talk to him, I have to control my speech when I talk about him. Like, you can't control me that way. And you should not feel entitled to control me that way. And if that was the definition of transphobia, I would wear that badge of honor. I'd wear that badge of honor. But I'm apparently not afraid. Even how much you might want to bully me or call me outside of my name, not going to comply. Not going to comply. But this is a person who actually does want to shut down opposition. Which Dylan Mulvaney said that he thought it should be illegal to call him a man. And he said it was worse than being called a sexual predator. I don't know how the internet could just let him like get away with that. That's quite the creepy thing to say. Quite the creepy thing to say, to admit out loud. What the heck? So Hershey's chocolate has uplifted this person. And another thing that John Stone said is that he wants them to be free to be their authentic selves. Again, he's not his authentic self if he believes that he's a woman, but also to be their authentic selves in public spaces. So what kind of public spaces? Like our bathrooms, our locker rooms, our spas, our cabins, like when kids go overnight for camping or something. Our women's shelters, our prisons, which, by the way, this is a person who also talked about that male rapists should be allowed in women's prisons. And also he wants to get rid of prisons, but he doesn't believe that we should segregate people like that. So if you have a man who's gone to prison for raping, and you don't think that they should be housed with other men, you want to put them with a more vulnerable population. And his reasoning being like, you don't want to like give into the fear or whatever, or give into the stereotype. This is a person who's actually committed a crime. Like, he wouldn't be in jail if he wasn't a violent sex offender. So it's provable, but you still don't want to put him with the other men. And you want to abolish prisons. Where do they go if you abolish the prisons? What do you do with people like this? What do you do? I know they don't want to execute them. So what do you do with people like this who would do something so violent? Yeah, but that's the person that Hershey's decided to put on a bar. That is who Hershey decided to uplift and put on a bar. So it's really disturbing. that they did this. Um, and people are saying that their chocolate wasn't that good and they're boycotting it. The night before this happened, by the way, I don't even know it was the night before or if it was just I found out when I came back. But we went to, and there's a Hershey store at the New York hotel, and I didn't get anything, but my sisters like got some cocoa or whatever, and they said it was really good. But I'm like, I'm glad I didn't buy no cocoa, you know. Which Hershey's is their chocolate compared to like other people's is not that good. It's really not. I mean, they do own Reese's too. I think so. I mean, Reese's I do like Reese's, but like the actual Hershey's bars and stuff and Hershey's Kisses, it's not the best chocolate. And I don't even like Hershey's that much. Like it has to, I don't know, like maybe it's not, it comes off a bit too sweet. Like at the, when it has, I think it's better when you actually have the almonds in it. But yeah, go buy some different chocolate, which leads us to Daily Wire. Daily Wire got on the ball with this so fast that they like immediately made a chocolate company and started selling chocolate, and apparently sold. I'll show you the video and then I'll tell you how many bars they sold within like less than 48 hours.
International Women's Day is upon us again, and I love an international woman. But our friends over at Hershey's, they don't even know what a woman is. They've hired a biological male to be the spokesperson for their Women's Day campaign, and they're calling that campaign, and I swear I'm not making this up, Hershey. Hershey. It's humiliating, and it's the reason that I'm launching Jeremy's chocolate. We have two kinds, she, her, and he, him. One of them's got nuts. If you need me to tell you which one it is, keep giving your money to Hershey's. But if you're tired of giving your money to woke corporations that hate you, and you're looking for a delicious chocolate bar from a company that actually wants your business, head over to IHateHersheys.com and order Jeremy's chocolate today.
So, within like less than 48 hours, they sold 200,000 bars. But Daily Wire is reporting that within 36 hours, they sold 300,000 bars of chocolate. So, they are not cheap bars. Like you can go get a chocolate bar for, I guess it's rare nowadays, and get it for $1, like $1.50 or something when in the store or something. I guess maybe can you still go to a dollar store and get candy for $1? If it's a Dollar Tree or something, if it's a Family Dollar, then it's probably like $1.50. If it's a dollar store, maybe you can find it for $1. If you go to, used to be like 79 cents and stuff. I guess it used to be way cheaper, but I don't think you can go to like Kroger or Meijer or somewhere and get it for $1, like a Hershey bar. Everything's a lot, but their chocolate is like $6, $7 for their bars. They have packs of like I think you can get like 24 pack for $100. I think it comes, maybe it comes with a tumbler. But it's like IHateHersheys.com, and you can get the one with the nuts or the one without the nuts. Yeah, 24 I'm sorry, a 4-pack is $24.99, a 10-pack is $45.99, and a 24-pack is $100. And I know people aren't just buying the chocolate, they're buying into the company as well. They're buying into the outrage and the joke. We're rewarding them for the joke, rewarding them for the troll. And seriously, kudos to Daily Wire for getting something out that fast and making it happen and making all that money very quickly. I can't shame the game, but part of me is like, we're so weird with our reaction, with the impulse buy when people are angry. And the left will do it, the right will do it. But I'm like, how much support people will want to give when they're upset or when they're triggered. And it's just like when people are kind of going through their daily life, like how much support do folks give to one another, like, I don't know how to, I don't want to seem like coming off like a hater or something. It's just, cause again, no, I absolutely no shade of Daily Wire. You should jump on whatever opportunity you can get. But this made me think of like people who were just buying up my pillows and stuff with Mike Lindell when he started getting canceled. And I understand that because, you know, they want to show him his support. So people are like buying. And I saw so many people that I know like just following like crazy, buying pillows that I'm sure they didn't need. And then people were upset with Goya. I think it for some reason Goya, people were trying to cancel Goya. So people are like, oh, I got to run out and buy some beans. And I'm like, how many people I'm like, that's good to support people when you feel that they're being attacked, when they're in a crisis and stuff. But I'm like, how many people do you know in your daily life that are just doing things and need support, like just on average, that they're not going to get heckled like crazy in the news or whatever, and they just kind of need your support on just every day or when you can, you know? So just I don't like, I know people who make chocolate. I was like, you know, you could always direct your money toward like your local business, small businesses and other stuff like that. Again, I don't fault like them for starting their own chocolate company and having the opportunity, because they made a lot of money very quickly with this. So, but I just think I guess it's not even today. It's not a message to Daily Wire. It's just something I want to put out in the atmosphere for people. Like, think about people in your everyday life that you can support, who are good, loving patriots that support the things that you support, like the small business, whatever. You know, are you quicker to help and pay into like Daily Wire to I don't know, own the left, to troll the left, than you are to invest in someone you know? I just want to put that question out there to folks, especially as a creative type myself. Because sometimes I'm like, you'll buy like 100 pillows, but you know, I'm like, okay. So I just want to put it out there, just something to think about. But yeah, people are doing stuff all the time. You don't have to just react when the left does something crazy. You know, you can support people every day. And I do support Daily Wire. I do have a subscription to them. Again, I'm not trying to like diss them. I just want to put that thought out there. Like, support people you know every day who are trying to do something. But kudos to them. And shame on Hershey's. Shame on Hershey's. Even if you're gonna just go ahead and support someone who's trans, or you want to uplift them or whatever, that was a bad pick. That was a bad pick. Like, how much research do people do? Because people started like looking it up like immediately. It's like, it was easy to find those tweets. Very easy to find those tweets. So if you're gonna have someone who you're putting their face on a candy bar, why wouldn't you look more into them? Why wouldn't you look more into them? Because other people are gonna look, and people already got stuff screenshotted. When I started looking up, stuff was still there. So and then Faye's just like, oh, I just think this reaction is funny and just shows everyone that we need this sort of representation. Or maybe you could, you know, reflect and see why people are actually upset. But he's a narcissist. He's someone who wants to shut down opposition. So he's gonna take it on the chin, you know. It's Hershey's that needs to like rectify the situation. I don't expect Faye to do it. I really don't. So let's move on. Let's move on. I want to talk about Jessa Duggar, or Seawald, and she had a miscarriage, and I did write about this on Black Tea News. And after she had her miscarriage, she had revealed it on YouTube, and watch a little snippet of that. But people were insisting that she had an abortion. And it was Parade said that she had a life-saving abortion, and Yahoo, does Yahoo even write articles, or do they just repost everyone's articles? Because every time I see Yahoo, it's always someone else's article. Now, I believe that Parade, like, changed their article. Instead of saying like with a life-saving, abortion, they said something else. I don't know if it's a different article entirely or if they just really, really edited it, because they if it's the same article that I saw that was changed, that I didn't see a correction, like at the bottom or something. But Abigail Disney said she didn't have a miscarriage, she had a DNC, which is also called an abortion and would be illegal in many states under laws she herself supports. And she called her a coward. And all these people were trying to bully her into something that's not even true. So I'm going to go ahead and just play a little bit of her video of when she was explaining. And she's a very public person. She does stuff, she's from 19 and Counting, that show. And she has a social media channel. And I think she had maybe posted some stuff about the baby before. So maybe that's why, she felt like she needed to tell all these people what happened. Because, I mean, people will ask. But women suffer with miscarriages all the time. Women who have abortions suffer with miscarriages, and the lack of compassion that people had in this situation with the loss of her child is really, really disgusting, and is very telling about the pro-abortion movement. But I will play a little bit of this video and then get into what I mean by that.
We arrived at the appointment and we went inside, exchanged the normal pleasantries, small talk. How far along are you? Laid back on the bed for the ultrasound. As soon as she started taking a look at the baby, I could tell there was some concern in her voice. She said, "Well, the sac looks good. Baby does not." Honestly, nothing could have prepared me for the weight of those words in that moment. I had really allowed myself to become so hopeful because the spotting had stopped. At that moment, I was just in complete shock. I didn't even have words. I just immediately started crying, and I was so thankful in that moment that I had not gone to the appointment by myself, because I almost did. And Ben was there, and he put his arms around me, and the technician went out and just said she was going to give us some space for a moment, and just trying to process through the loss. We're just sitting there and holding hands and crying, and what do we do from here? And I feel like in some ways miscarriages can be so much more jarring because you don't have clear signs of something going wrong. I mean, I had minimal spotting for like 24 hours and that was it. In the end, I ended up having to go see my doctor, and because my history of hemorrhaging and all of that, there was concern that if I tried to just take something, go past the baby at home, that I might have trouble and have to be transported and all of that. It just wasn't something that seemed like a very good option. And so we decided to go to the hospital, get checked in there, and go through the process of DNC. It was a difficult experience. Before getting checked in at the hospital, I just had a moment like by myself to just think about the weight of the situation and what had happened and start to process. And in that moment, I was thinking of Job and how when he lost everything that he held dear, his kids, everything, in that moment, he was still able to say, God is good. And so, honestly, don't know how, but it's hard. It's hard, but we do know the truth that God is good and he does care for us. And so I remember reciting those words of Job. It says, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And I was able to thank God in that moment for giving us this life, even if we would never be able to hold this baby in our arms.
So, because she said she had a DNC, people were saying that it was an abortion. And I've noticed this for more than a year, I suppose, because I do a lot of TikToks and stuff, and my main page has so many about abortion, so many TikToks about it. It didn't mean to evolve that way, but it just kind of did. Because people reply and they say something silly, and then you reply, and it just goes back and forth. But I would see people saying it, and then watch different people's lives, and there was a commentary going on that abortion is just the termination of a pregnancy. Like that's the sort of phrasing that people have, and it seemed very on purpose, and I suppose it is. But people will literally talk as if an abortion is just ending a pregnancy, and I'm like, if you give birth, that's not an abortion. If you have a C-section, that's not an abortion. Even if you like look at how people describe it, I don't know if the warning will pop up right now, but even like different warnings on stuff on social media, you go on IH or whatever, and they'll say it's like it's a ending of a pregnancy or termination of a pregnancy. It's like, well, how is it terminated? And what happens to, what does that mean? Like, why can't we get specific about what that means? At least saying that it kills the fetus or the embryo or the baby, whatever you want to call it. And so in medical dictionaries, abortion is the termination of a pregnancy resulting in the death of an embryo or a fetus. That's what the actual definition is. Now, a miscarriage is also technically referred to as a spontaneous abortion, but we do not have discussions about abortion in this country because we want to outlaw miscarriages or something. We're not having heated debates about spontaneous abortions. Like we're not having debates about miscarriages. We're having debates about deliberately killing the unborn, and that is technically called an induced abortion. And when I brought up like abortion numbers one day, and someone's like, "Oh, those are miscarriages too." I'm like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "This is all induced." And I think I was using like the CDC numbers of induced abortion, so it was like 600 and something thousand. But if you do look at the CDC's numbers, you got to know that the states aren't required to report all that data. So there are states that are missing, like California. So the Guttmacher Institute puts like it's either 2020 or 2021's numbers like close to 1 million, like 930 plus thousand of induced abortions. So that's deliberately killing of the unborn. So people have to conflate the miscarriage with the abortion, with the induced abortion, because they need every inch of the angle that they can get. And I'm not trying to say that they're with the Roe v. Wade being overturned and maybe there's some outdated laws on the books, or there could be in some place some stuff. Stories have been exaggerated. In some cases, there have been doctors who have been scared to act because they don't know the law themselves. We do need clarifications, and this is an area where I feel like pro-choice doctors are really failing. Like they need to work with legislative bodies to make sure that we have the best protections for women. But if your end goal is to make it so that you can just get abortion on demand up until like the time of birth, basically, and that's what you're pushing for, and you're using like a situation where it's like medical care for a woman, like she had a DNC, a woman that's to clean out your uterus. You're cleaning out tissue. That's what it's for. So in her case, her baby was dead for 3 weeks when they had that D&C. If you do not clear out the baby at that point in time, because sometimes if you have a miscarriage, they wait. The doctors want to advise to see if the baby will just naturally pass through you without having you do some kind of surgery or something. But if they can't do that, they don't want you to go into some kind of septic shock. Because at that point in time, if your baby's alive, it's growing. And if it's not, it's, it's a corpse, and you could get sick and you could die. So at that point, it is like legitimate medical care. And so she had a D&C 3 weeks after her baby had passed. And so for people to insist so strongly that she had an abortion because it was a D&C, I'm like, do you guys know like what happens during an abortion? Like if you have a first trimester abortion, and well, let's just watch it. This is animated, so don't run for the hills, I suppose. But if you're unaware of what this like kind of looks like, it's important to know. But they have the D and C, like the C stands for curette, and they scrape the remaining tissue. Again, if you have a baby that's alive, it's growing. If it's dead, it's a corpse. So if you have little arms or whatever that's left behind, you got to make sure you get that out of the mother. But there's something that happens prior to that you can't just like ignore. You can't ignore. So we're gonna go ahead and watch this video that Live Action did some time ago to get the picture, because there's some people out here who like literally do not understand what's happening.
My name is Dr. Anthony Levatino. I'm a practicing obstetrician gynecologist, and I've performed over 1,200 abortions. Today, I'm going to describe a first trimester surgical abortion called suction D&C, dilatation and curettage. This is the most frequently performed abortion and is used typically from 5 to 13 weeks of pregnancy. After administering anesthesia, the abortionist uses a speculum like this. This is placed inside the vagina and opened using this screw on the side, allowing the abortionist to see the cervix, the entrance to the uterus. The cervix acts as a gate that stays closed for the duration of pregnancy, protecting the baby until it is ready for birth. The abortionist uses a series of metal rods called dilators, like these, which increase in thickness, and inserts them into the cervix to dilate it, gaining access to the inside of the uterus where the baby resides. The baby has a heartbeat, fingers, toes, arms, and legs, but its bones are still weak and fragile. The abortionist takes a suction catheter like this one. This is a 14 French suction catheter. It's clear plastic, about 9 inches long, and it has a hole through the center. It is inserted through the cervix into the uterus. The suction machine is then turned on with a force 10 to 20 times more powerful than your household vacuum cleaner. The baby is rapidly torn apart by the force of the suction and squeezed through this tubing down into the suction machine.
So yeah, that's the missing part there. That's the missing part, like the context of how do you get to that point of where if you have an abortion, at what point do you actually need the C? They did the dilation, but the C comes in after this part. So it's important to clean out the mother. This is healthcare, not the abortion part, but the actual like using the curette, because you can't have that tissue in there. There are women who have gotten sick and even died because they've had abortions and they didn't get all the pieces of the baby out. So it is a very serious thing for women who have abortions and women who have miscarriages to make sure that when you get that corpse out. And corpse seems like a very tough word when you are they're not alive. It is a dead person. But there are pieces in there where you got to make sure you got all the pieces out after you do something like this. So if you have a miscarriage, that baby has sadly, tragically passed away, but that is their natural life. Their natural life has ended, even though they did not make it out the womb. That was a natural death, beginning to end. If you have an abortion, that is a deliberate termination of life. So people who just say it's ending a pregnancy, that's not accurate. Not accurate. People who think that just simply having a D&C is an abortion, I don't think you know what an abortion is, or maybe you do, but you just want to conflate because you want as many people on your side as possible. So scaring women have miscarriages all the time, and if you want to scare the crap out of them so they can use your tragic loss to empathize with abortion on demand, they'll do whatever they have to do. They'll do whatever they have to do. If there's any laws that make it difficult for doctors to give actual medical care to their patients in a situation where there's a miscarriage or something, I think doctors should work with legislators and stuff to clear any sort of thing like that up. But again, I think these pro-choice doctors are really doing a disservice to women when their agenda that they're pushing, that they'll use those situations as an agenda to push abortion basically up until the time of birth. Be like, well, this is just what our patients need. No, that's your agenda driving everything. So we can finish watching the procedure.
Followed by the placenta. Though the uterus is mostly emptied at this point, one of the risks of a suction D&C is incomplete abortion. Essentially, pieces of the baby or placenta left behind. This can lead to infection or bleeding. In an attempt to prevent this, the abortionist uses a curette to scrape a lining of the uterus. The curette is basically a long-handled curved blade. Once the uterus is empty, the speculum is removed and the abortion is complete. The risks of suction D&C include perforation or laceration of the uterus or cervix, potentially damaging intestine, bladder, and nearby blood vessels, hemorrhage, infection, and in rare instances, even death. Future pregnancies are also at a greater risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related trauma and injury to the cervix. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm Dr. Anthony Levatino, and in the early part of my career as an OBGYN, I performed over 1,200 abortions. One day, after completing one of those abortions, I looked at the remains of a preborn child whose life I had ended, and all I could see was someone's son or daughter. I came to realize that killing a baby at any stage of pregnancy for any reason is wrong. I want you to know today, no matter where you're at or what you've done, you can change. Make a decision today to protect the preborn. Thank you for your time. I will no longer do.
So his story is pretty interesting. If you haven't heard it, I haven't seen like a super long form video, but of him talking about it. So maybe I should go back and watch that interview with it that they did with live action. But I saw him testify at some kind of hearing, and he had I must have saw another interview too, but he had a daughter who was killed, and that just, I guess, changed his perception as he tried to go about his life and doing abortions. And because I think at first he didn't want to, he decided he couldn't do like late term, but then he just couldn't do it at all. So anyway, pretty interesting guy. But yeah, that's what the C is for, to clean out the tissue. And you can have a D&C for things not related to pregnancy and stuff. It is to clear out tissue. That's what it's for. But to conflate a mother's loss with an abortion, like an induced abortion, to conflate that stuff for political gain, really, 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 really sick. And I hope that I saw some TikToks of people trying to who were saying that she had an abortion, and some people in the comments were like, I hope this changes people's hearts and minds, because they're also mad and see her as a hypocrite, Jessa Duggar as a hypocrite, because she's pro-life. And they're like, oh, you had an abortion, but we can't have an abortion. You're welcome to have what she had if you have a miscarriage, because they don't go in and scrape babies with Tourette's like that. If they're alive, they do something first. Just such disingenuous arguments, but there's a lot of ignorant people as well who've been misled by people I'm sure who know better, who've just been blatantly dishonest. But they're saying, I hope this change hearts and minds. And I do hope that it changes hearts and minds, but I hope people see how desperate that people are on like the pro-abortion side. This is not like a pro-choice like this is like pro-abortion. You're trying to protect abortion, and that's why you conflate the two. Abigail Disney coming at her. She's I don't know how dumb or smart she is, but she ought to know better. But a lot of people don't know better and don't know what the procedures are like. Just get their education from TikTok or whatever. And it's amazing to me how passionate people can be about an issue, but not know what they're supporting. So this was like a line that people really crossed, in my opinion. I was really hot about it when it happened. Really upset when it happened. But she did I'm glad that some people changed their headlines or whatever, corrected their stories. But one thing about getting this narrative out, how coordinated it was, there's some people who are never going to be reached, and they're just going to conflate the two, continue to conflate the two. But keep her, if you pray, keep her in your prayers. And if you don't, I guess will some good vibes her way. What a sad thing to go through. Next, I do want, oh gosh, I'm over the hour already. I want to talk, I think Scott Adams is the last thing I want to mention. Nope, Bryan Cranston. Okay, gosh, we're going long today. So I did talk about Scott Adams before he got like canceled. So just to run through it, I'm not gonna play his video that caused such a controversy. I'll just try to explain it really quickly. So Scott Adams was upset because there's some research that came out from Rasmussen. I don't think that's how you say it, but the polling company, and they asked the question like, do you think it's okay to be white? They also asked like, can Black people be racist? Some people are really mad that they even asked the question, and I'm like, no, I think it's fascinating that they asked the question. To me, I was at least glad that majority of Americans can still say that it's okay to be white, like because some people can't help, like why wouldn't it be, like, so I'm like, oh, at least majority of the country aren't crazy. But there was a pretty high percentage of people who said they're not sure. So between when they broke it down by race, the Black people said not sure, combined with people who said that it's not okay to be white, it wasn't 50%, it was in the high 40s. And so Scott Adams was like, this can't be fixed. If like half of Black people think that it's not okay to be white, that is a hate group. And he recommended for white people to just get away. Like, they don't like you, get away. And so people were very angry. He said other stuff. You guys can go like watch his full video, but people were really upset. Now I pointed out, because I think I commented on the day it happened, and I said, this is a heck of a thing to say. He's probably going to face some repercussions for this. And if it's something, I'm like, he's usually someone who wants to start a discussion and says thought-provoking or provocative things to spark a discussion. I said, if this is how he like really truly feels, that's a heck of a thing to admit out loud. And so I could just foresee consequences coming for him for saying it. But I did point out that the words he's speaking is basically critical race theory. And I don't think he particularly ascribes to that way of thinking, but critical race theory teaches that white people are racist. They benefit from the system. So there's they don't have an incentive to not be racist. And even if they do something that's not racist, like in like when they support integration or something like that, they might just still be doing it for some kind of benefit to themselves. So Scott Adams has said, no matter what you do, like people are still going to be upset and be racist, think that, you know, be racist towards you. And I'm like, this is like critical race theory though. So he's just saying the logical conclusion of what these woke people are actually teaching. So that's what I put out. And so then it came out that he had been canceled, that he got dropped. Dilbert got dropped. He's a creator of Dilbert. And not only did Dilbert get dropped from like major publications, his book that was non-Dilbert related got dropped from his publisher. He said his agent like canceled him too. And he said his backlist, he said something about his backlist too. Now there are people who are buying up his stuff on, you know, Amazon or whatever. But that only will go so far if he can't put out, you know, other stuff too. So it was a heck of a thing to do. So he did have an interview with Hotep Jesus. So I just want to play this part because I thought it was, well, spoke to how I basically pegged him. So and I think it's a bit profound. So just want to cover what's going on with Scott Adams.
Began this conversation and called yourself an energy monster. Now, when I first saw your statement, I classified it as trolling. Some people may call it clout chasing. Maybe you're classifying this as being an energy monster or provocateur. What is the goal of your statement? Was it to get people energetically charged up?
Well, is that what you call trolling? Getting
Sometimes
people just riled up?
It can be construed as that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a little secret about me. I never do something for one reason. So I wouldn't do it just for laughs.
Right.
I wouldn't do it just for clout.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly wouldn't do it for financial reasons. I don't know if you've heard, but the Dilbert's being canceled all over the country, and it's, you know, CNN is canceling me. I think TMZ was canceling me just before I got on. I think the biggest newspaper that carries me has already decided to cancel. I would be surprised if I'm in business a few days from now. So here's the things you can know it isn't. I wouldn't do it just for laughs. I mean, it isn't that funny. It's pretty funny, but it isn't that funny.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't do it for money. I wouldn't do it for reputation. Why would I do it? Well, that's a question. Why would I do it?
I think you want to have the conversation.
Can you think of any other reason I would do it?
I think you wanted to have, I think you wanted to create room for the conversation.
I discovered that the price of free speech is really high, and there are only a few people willing to pay it. So I decided to pay it so that I could extend the conversation to something that everybody needs to hear. So let me set it up. You might want to play the quote first. Do you want?
So you can go watch the interview because then he starts breaking down some points and his larger point, and there's some stuff in there that definitely makes sense, but unfortunately the internet is not a forgiving space, and people have very short attention spans, and people don't want to think too deeply about a lot of things. So I knew he was going to get canceled basically from the moment that his video was out there. And I knew he was taking a risk, and I know he was smart enough to know that he was taking a risk with his commentary. But as he said, that there is a high price for speech, and he decided that he was willing to pay it. So that's still a heck of a hill to die on. Yeah, will we have these conversations? I don't know. I mean, we're having some, but are we going to have them to the degree that it was worth him paying for in that moment? I hope he feels like he's going to get the bang for his buck for free speech. But I do think it's important, like the conversation that I had about it, saying that, hey, he's just saying, like putting to light the reality of critical race theory, what you guys are pushing. Like, how do you expect people to react when you're like, they're racist, everything about them is racist, they'll always be racist, even when they do not racist things, it doesn't matter. And he's like, just get the heck away from those people. And they're like, oh, it's the natural conclusion for what these people push. It's a natural conclusion. Now, his criticism of the or the black people thinking that it's generalizations aren't great anyway, but to say it's a hate group because there was like 21% or 20 something percent that said they're not sure if it's not okay to be white, if it is okay to be white. I would like to give people the benefit of the doubt and chalk that up to moral cowardice rather than them just being racist, which both are bad. Again, it was a heck of a thing to decide to a heck of a hill to choose to die on. But I do think we do need to have conversations about how awful our race relations are, how bad that it's gotten. But since then I've seen him have some conversations and lay out how the media is really, really responsible for stoking the flames of racism and the condition of the racial tensions that we've had in this country from like Trayvon Martin and up. I mean, do you guys remember? And I can't remember if it was NBC or ABC. One of the news companies like edited Zimmerman's call to make it seem like he was a racist or something, and then they people reporting he was white, and then they're like, oh, he's white Hispanic. It was that was a time where things just progressively really got worse as far as race relations, and the media does it to play it into it for political reasons, sure, but they also do it because that news, I mean, news is their business and they know what gets people talking. But I think a lot of it does have to really do about power and social change and the sort of enemies that you can make and destroy if you push those kind of narratives. So I'm not saying I'm glad that he did what he did, because I don't know if it was necessary for him to fall on a sword like that. I really don't know. I think it's interesting that he's willing to do that. But he did ask his audience what's the number one, the first rule of persuasion. And because he's like a trained hypnotist or something, and he talks about persuasion and influence all the time. He knew that Trump was going to win because the election, because he just was a naturally good persuader, and he called it very early. So that's kind of how I came acquainted with Scott. I mean, I've known about Dilbert, but as far as like the face behind the cartoon and some of his commentary, the Trump prediction and the commentary around it caught my eye. So the first rule of persuasion is influence is power, or attention is influence. So he's got a lot of people's attention, and a lot of people can have the conversation. And I think he notes that maybe he's not the person who will really launch who will continue the conversation in the route that it need to go, but he's willing to pay at least to get it started. So I hope it ends up being a sword that was worth it to him to lay on. Last thing I want to talk about today is Bryan Cranston, who is the star of the movie about the show about the drugs, Breaking Bad. Never seen it, but he's also the dad in Malcolm in the Middle. Didn't really watch that show either. He's also, I think he was in Godzilla. I didn't watch it either, but I think he was in that movie. Anyway, I know who he is though. And he was in the news lately because he had a conversation with Bill Maher about critical race theory, which I did reply to that on a TikTok. But he mentioned that MAGA could be perceived as racist, and That is really annoying to me, and it's not an original thought at all. But I'm gonna go ahead and play some of his interview and then go ahead and talk about it. Again, this is not a original idea in the least.
You got into a tussle recently with Bill Maher about critical race theory and wokeness. When you look at the political discourse in our country today and the role that media plays in it, what do you think?
It's difficult to try to find truly unbiased reporting, news that really is straight shooters.
By the way, I did not know that Chris Wallace was like still gonna have a show and stuff. Because he left Fox to go to CNN, and he was supposed to have his show on CNN Plus, but CNN Plus like imploded so quickly. But yeah, he's here doing stuff.
You know, this conversation I had with Bill, we're talking about critical race theory, and I think it's imperative that it's taught, that we look.
Again, he's saying it's imperative that it's taught. I don't think he really knows what it is. I mean, maybe he's read up on it or whatever, but I just want to point out again, because I'm going to clip this and put the different segment up on on YouTube. Scott Adams was canceled for his commentary. Dilbert, major newspapers dropped him. His book agent apparently dropped him. His book publishing company, like everybody's dropped him. He's canceled because they hated his you know what he said about white people just get away from black people because they don't like you. Nothing you do is going to matter. Critical race theory, if you can read it in Critical Race Theory and Introduction. One of the tenets is that racism is ordinary, you know, and then in another part of the tenets, they talk about how white people have an incentive to be racist. They have an incentive to not break the system that gives them power, whether it's, you know, elitist or the sort of, I don't know, psychological power that it can give the sort of country bumpkin folks, I guess. And even when white people do something not racist, it could just be not because they're not racist, but because they're getting some kind of social benefit from not treating you with racism. So this white man is saying it's very important that we teach critical race theory. Why? Does he believe that white people, maybe he does, are just racist, always going to be racist, and there's just nothing like he has incentive to really not break the system? I think it's a heck of a thing, white people, to say that they support critical race theory. I think that is so fascinating. That is so fascinating to me. So let's keep watching.
Look at our history, much the same, I think, that Germany has looked at their history in involvement in the wars, that they 1 and 2, and embrace it and say, this is where we went wrong. This is how it went wrong. When I see the
by the way, well, I'm not German, so I don't know how true that is. I remember going to the Philippines, and it didn't seem like I spent a lot of time. I talked to someone who was from Germany, and it didn't seem like they spent a lot of time on that. Like we spent a lot of time on that, talking about that. So I don't know how much embracing they do, but countries have such huge histories anyway. So for and we're a young nation, but to have so much focus, like it has to be we act like racism has to be our identity, which I guess to the grifters, they think that racism is our identity. Obama's like said it's like in our DNA and stuff. So but there's so many great things about our nation, including putting a stop to slavery. That we could focus on, like, people like, well, we need to put more stuff in school and learn. I'm like, how many hours in a day do you think there are? Like, you can learn things when you're older, and research. There's so much research and stuff that I've done. I like history. I think it's fascinating. That particular period of time I find fascinating. So I wrote a historical fiction fantasy, actually. So I do find it it's not the most historically accurate thing, but I said fantasy by the way. So I find that period of time fascinating, but there's only so much, like, history that you teach, like, in the schools, and then people have to learn about other countries too. They have to learn about world history as well, and it's just like a subject that you have, like, every year. So um so people wanted to make it so much about racism. Like, do you guys understand that we do learn about this stuff, like, in school now? Like, they're not trying to erase, like, people are talking about in Ron DeSantis and Florida, and claiming that they're trying to get rid of African American history or whatever. Like, no, it's actually, like, integrated, like, that they have to learn about it in their curriculum. They just didn't want to teach, like, woke queer theory and reparations and all that kind of different stuff within the AP course that they were trying to do. And then they took it out and whatever. But I couldn't imagine, like, yeah, Dad, I'm going to take this AP course and then it has queer theory in it or something. So him saying that we need to teach this stuff and we need to embrace it. Critical race theory is not about history. It is not. It says right in the writing. There's an element of activism to it, that it's about embracing subjectivity. It is not just history. People who say that do not know what they are talking about, and if they do, they are lying to you. So here Bryan is again, and he was talking to Bill Maher, and he was really, I don't know if aggressive is a good word, but he was very he was insisting his point quite a bit, and people felt like he was maybe schooling Bill or whatever. But I'm like, it doesn't sound like these people actually know what they are talking about when they push it so hard. Like, it's very much not history. It's very much not history. And we have been learning about this stuff for a long. I promise you, I learned about the Civil War. I learned about Black history. I learned about those things while in school. Did I learn, like, everything that I know now? Like, you're an adult. Like, why? At least I'm an adult. Like, you can learn things afterwards. You can take specialized courses. You can become a history major. You can go around the world, picking up different stuff about cultures, and I don't trace the lineage of folks in the slave. You can do whatever the heck you want when you're a grown up. But I know as a kid, there's only a certain amount of hours in the day that you won't even be there fooling with that stuff anyway. And you want to reconstruct everything to add indoctrination. It's a lens to view the world through. It is not simply like dates and times and numbers and facts of things that happened. There's an agenda behind everything within it. So just being like, we need to teach this history. It's not history in the least bit.
The Make America Great Again. My comment is, do you accept that could possibly be construed as a racist remark? And most people, a lot of people go, how could that be racist? Make America great again? I said, so just ask yourself from an African-American experience, when was it ever great in America for the African-American? When was it great? So if you're making it great again, it's not including them.
To end this on a different note, for all of
Okay, so I'm gonna end that there. So when was it great? Because people do ask this question, like, when was it ever great for African Americans? So I'm a Black person, and I will say I was born in 89. When was it great for Black? 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. We can go all the way up to today. What are we saying is great compared to what? Where else do you think I should go? Like comparatively, that I would think it's better. You know, if America's not great and it's not great for Black people, where would it be better for me to go? Because there's a lot of people who are risking their lives to get here illegally, by the way, and there are people who are trying to get here legally who come here and kill it with like a couple dollars in their pocket and really live the American dream. Man, so many Africans resent, and I'm speaking generally here, so you don't have to, I'm not saying all, don't, get your panties in a bunch or whatever. But there's so many Africans will be so annoyed with with Black people, who have been here for generations, who feel we're just ungrateful, who feel like we are wasting so many opportunities, who don't carry on good family values and traditions or whatever, and they'll just have a funky attitude. And I don't think that's much of a secret. Again, it's not like I'm not saying it's everybody, but you can definitely find people who have that attitude, who just feel like y'all is just some ungrateful Americans, and those people are actually like African Americans. But if America was not great for Black people, why are all these people trying to immigrate over here? If it's bad for Black and brown people, and why aren't we trying to stop them? Why aren't we at the border saying, no, it's terrible, go back to wherever you came from? Why do we bring them in and, house them and, give them opportunities and phones and whatnot? Why do we do that? Why not say, hey, you don't want to be here in Black, bruh, get out of here? Why do we do that? Maybe it's because we know that America is actually great. And people who are here are lucky to be here. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's a lot of stuff that I complain about all the day. I mean, all the time, every day. I think I was combining every day and all the time. On the show, stuff that I'm very concerned about, the state of our nation, where we're going, things that are just not just America, things that are annoying about the West and Western attitudes and stuff. You can complain all day about different stuff, but that doesn't mean that it's still not a great place to live. I don't know where else I would go, where else I would prefer, if I was Black or not. I love this country, and it's better for me today than it was for my father, and better for him than it was for his father, et cetera, et cetera. I was having a conversation about my dad started talking about his grandfather, who was maybe like, I think he said maybe 1/8 or something Black, because he was talking about how light he is and other family members and stuff, and our skin tones. And so I mentioned that my dad's mom and his aunt, when they were little girls, his mother, their mother would tell them, when you go to the store where he works, don't call him your father. Because if you call him your father, they were afraid that he would get fired. So he was doing what people call passing. And so his children could not acknowledge him in public because they needed money. Like, that's the state of where the country was not too long ago. My grandmother was born in 1935. So this is like the 40s. It seems like forever ago, right? but in the span of a country, and America's not that old. It wasn't that long ago. Not that long ago. But it's progressively gotten so much better. And it was worse before that for people who had endured slavery. So there's a lot of people who are really trying to hold on to things that didn't even happen to them, happen to other folks. People want to be paid reparations for stuff that they didn't experience and they didn't go through because they feel that they're somehow owed. Like, how are you owed for someone else's pain? How? And people want to, instead of trying to build something and continue the progress forward, people are trying to take us back into a time of division and hate and want to live with, I don't know, just perpetual trauma. Again, with stuff that they didn't experience or stuff they read about or the general or maybe someone passed on and they want to hold on to that aggression. I don't know a lot of older people, by the way, in my dad's like generation that have the sort of bitterness that activists around like my age or younger have. I don't know a lot of adults, Black adults, who feel that way because they can look around at today and they remember when they were pulled over by, I'm not saying people aren't pulled over by police due to racial issues today, but like when it was obvious and you like legit did not know if you were coming home. And I know there's incidents that we see on the news sometimes of like the police made a mistake here, police made a mistake there, and they should be prosecuted, etc. I'm talking about when this was like a really normal occurrence. We've made great strides. So I'm at least going to say, for me, America's always been great. And there's certainly no other time that I would have liked to have been here in this country. But there have been times, I'll at least like for the country, the first 2 years of Trump, those are at least better than what we're going through now. As far as the economy, the border crisis is crazy. If Trump, this is what I don't understand about Trump and focusing so much on DeSantis. I'm like, just compare what you did with Biden, like year for year, different things, and you know, people understand COVID, though Democrats try and act like that didn't happen and everything just tanked because Trump sucked or something. But just go by jobs and inflation and go from there. And you know, argue about foreign policy and other stuff like that. Just go from there. You don't have to bring up Ron DeSantis at all until you're on a debate stage with him. But I don't like the trajectory, especially the social trajectory of the country under Biden. And people, I go to the grocery store, people are complaining about prices all the time. I mean, I'm complaining, but I mean like strangers. I was at the potatoes the other day and they're just people complaining about the potatoes and the eggs and all the different prices. You know, it's really rough for people. I'm glad gas isn't as high as it was, but shoot, that was super rough for people, for everybody. So yeah, there's some things that have been better, but just because you may reminisce about a different time or say make America great again, that doesn't mean that you want to transport yourself into the past. Like if I said I miss things about when I was in high school, that doesn't mean I miss living in a trailer park. You know, that maybe I just miss hanging out with some of my friends or something. It doesn't mean that I want to be transported back into that time exactly and relive my life during those ages. Maybe there's just certain elements that I appreciate. Now, what Bryan Cranston could actually do is talk to people who are Trump supporters or whatever, who cast the ballot for him, who wear Make America Great Again, and just ask, what do you mean by that? Because I actually did that. Because back in 2016, Angela Rye was on CNN saying when people talk about Make America Great Again, they're talking about water hoses and all this, you know, anti like black stuff or whatever. And I was annoyed by it. I really don't like Angela Rye. So I haven't seen her on TV in a while though. So I decided to go to a Trump rally, and I did work for the Michigan Republican Party, and I had to convince them like to like that this was a good idea. I don't know what was up with them. But I grabbed my umbrella because it was raining and my camera. And so I was just going to person asking them, what does Make America Great Again mean to you? And people said It was about pride. It was about patriotism. It was about defending our border. It was about standing up to ISIS. It was about getting our economy back together. People said all sorts of different things, and I made sure that I asked a diverse group of people. There were Black people there. I asked Asians, Hispanic people, young people, women. I did ask the white cis males as well, but people answered, and nobody said anything remotely racist. Nobody said anything remotely racist. So instead of so people can perceive all they want about what a message or whatever stands for, but you could always just ask. You could always just ask what it means. Because I can't change what you assume, but I can correct you. And so I'm correcting Bryan Cranston. I literally put together a video asking people what it means to them. Because again, his opinion isn't original. Not in the least bit. So he's woke, folks. He's woke. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I think that was a lot that I wanted to talk about. I couldn't talk about while I was away in Vegas. So we had a good trip. So but glad to be back before you talking about the issues. So again, thank you for entertainment. I know some of the stuff is a bit old. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like my content, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. It costs a stream, run my website, all that good stuff. So if you can help with the overhead, I very much appreciate it. Also check out different merch that I have, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For, which I have to look up what happened to Cara Dune, Gina Carano's character. I made this shirt after her situation because they did announce what happened to her character. I have not watched Mandalorian or whatever, but I do want to talk about it. So maybe I'll look that up and we can talk about it tomorrow. Check out my different books and stuff that I have. Again, you can go to blacktnews.com and just hit the merchandise button, and there's a banner will take you to my book website, or you can just search me on Amazon. I got a lot of stuff, but feel free to pre-order my book. Of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. You can pre-order the Kindle version, and the paperback will be available in the future. I'll let you guys know. Make sure you're signing up for different updates, and I will see you tomorrow.